Maybe your jaw is tight right now, or your shoulders, or there's a low rumble or hum in your stomach that you've been ignoring since earlier today. And maybe you've been holding your breath and you didn't even realize it until now. Your body knows before your mind does. It knows that you're tired before you admit it. It knows that conversation that's coming is going to be hard before you walk into that room. It knows you aren't okay long before you let yourself say the words out loud. If you are an 8, a 9, or a 1 on the Enneagram, and honestly, even if you're not, your body has been speaking to you for a long time. So today, we are going to listen. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I'm Jill Pack, and this is episode number 203, The Body Knows. If you joined me last week, you know that we kicked off a little series on the Enneagram, and we talked about the triads, and we took this high view of all three, the head, the heart, and the gut, and I gave you a brief overview. And this week, we're zooming in. We're going deeper into the gut triad. Sometimes it is called the body center, and that is types 8, 9, and 1. Now, again, I am not an Enneagram expert, but a learner, and I want to share with you what I've been learning. And this episode is in no way comprehensive. It's meant to give you more understanding and hopefully an invitation to learn more. Now, you don't need to know your number for this episode to be of value to you, because even if you don't know your type, you have a body. And the patterns we're going to talk about today live inside every one of us to some degree. You're going to recognize yourself or your spouse or your kid or that woman at church who you just can't quite read. In this episode, I want to talk about what links these three types because there is a common thread. Then we're going to spend time with each one, and I'm going to revisit a tool that I have shared on this podcast before called SNAP from Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne Stabile's beautiful book, The Road Back to You. It helps each type use their agency in a more intentional way. So let's dive in. The gut triad, or body center, includes type 8, 9, and 1, and the common thread is anger. This is a word that many of us don't like, especially as women of faith. Many of us picked up on the belief that anger is wrong or bad or even unspiritual, that we need to be nice and not to get angry. And if we feel it, we should pray it away or stuff it down or smile through it. But what I have been learning from the Enneagram is what our bodies have been trying to tell us for a long time. Anger isn't the problem. Anger is information. The problem is what we do with that anger, what we do with the energy of it when it shows up. And every type in the gut triad has a different unconscious pattern or strategy for managing that energy. An 8 pushes it out. They externalize it. They get bigger and louder and more direct. 9s push it down. They bury it. They go to sleep to it and they get smaller. And 1s push it in. They turn it in on themselves first and then sometimes outward as criticism or correction. Anger is the same fuel for each of these numbers. They just have different ways of expressing it. And underneath all three, there's the same deeper question of the body center. How do I stay myself in a world that keeps asking me to be something different? Autonomy, boundaries, integrity, these are important to the body center types. Being here as themselves. And as I mentioned last week, no number is better than another. No triad, gut, heart, or head is better or more spiritual than the others. In our conversation today, I want to invite you to remember that God made you a body. He doesn't bypass it on the way to your soul. It is vital to our spiritual journey. So when we talk about gut wisdom, about anger as information, about nervous system regulation, we're also stepping into faith. The temple of our body is where the Spirit can speak to us. So we want to listen. So let's start with the 8, the challenger or protector. The 8's core wound is the early story they carry deep inside of themselves. It sounds something like, if I am soft, I will be controlled or harmed. Somewhere along the way, often very young, the 8 learned that the world wasn't a safe place to be vulnerable. So they did what any smart kid would do. They got bigger. They got tougher. They built armor before they even understood what they were doing. Their strategy in life becomes, I will protect myself and I will protect the people I love and I will not let anyone get away with anything. So for the 8, anger is the go-to emotion, and it's front and center for everyone else to see. It's direct, it's hot, it moves really fast, and by the time most of us are figuring out that we're upset, the 8 has already said the thing. They are the one who says that hard thing at a family meeting that everyone else has been thinking for years. They are strong and independent people who are hiding their softer side. They are skeptical and they can find it hard to trust others because feelings of anger are so accessible to an 8, they may react without considering the consequences. Their deadly sin is lust. And again, it's not what we think. It's this desire for intensity. They can be overindulgent or excessive in work and play. They value truth and they get their energy from conflict. They are passionate and combative, which can feel threatening to those around them. But that very intensity can feel like intimacy for an 8. 8s are amazing and energetic. They are protective, especially of those who can't protect themselves. They care about justice and fairness, and they are brave and not afraid to be honest about something they see as wrong. 8s are the people that you want next to you when life gets hard because they will not flinch. They will tell the doctor what's actually going on. They will call the school. They will get in the car. They will show up. They will get things done. But there is a cost. There's always a cost. Vulnerability starts to feel like weakness to an 8. Tenderness gets armored over, and sometimes the people closest to an 8 feel run over, even when the 8 is just trying to be honest. 8s often don't realize how much energy they're carrying into a room. The volume that feels normal on the inside to an 8 may come across as a 10 on the outside to other people. Are you an 8? Do you know someone you think might be an 8? Have you or someone you know stood up for something and said that honest thing and refused to back down? Did it come from a place of calm confidence, or was there collateral damage that needed repair? What does growth look like in an 8? The 8's growth comes when they can begin letting people see what's underneath their armor, because under that big energy is almost always a younger self who wasn't protected or didn't feel protected, who learned too early to handle things alone. Underneath the anger is often grief. So how can transformation happen for an 8? Well, it can happen when they are willing to receive feedback on their behaviors. When they can begin to befriend their younger self, knowing that they did the best they could and that they matter. When they can avoid all or nothing thinking and embrace the gray areas of life. When they can see vulnerability as its own kind of strength. When they can be honest with themselves about their tendency to react impulsively. When they can embrace the idea that they might be wrong sometimes. When they are willing to apologize for coming on too strong. When they can see that everyone else isn't out to get them. And when they can allow themselves to feel without pushing it out. And when they can accept the tender parts of themselves and be willing to share it with others. The invitation to the 8 is curiosity. Curiosity about what's actually underneath the anger. Not why am I so angry, but what is my anger trying to protect right now? What younger version of me is at the wheel? This can soften things. So here's where I want to bring in this SNAP tool that Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne Stabile talk about in their book, the SNAP method. I've taught it before. It stands for stop, notice, ask, and pivot. And it works in about 30 seconds. So for an 8, it sounds like this. Stop. Take 3 breaths before the words come out, before the email gets sent, before the meeting blows up. The 8 is super fast to react, and snap slows their takeoff. And then notice what's happening in your body. Where's the heat? The 8 tends to live in the chest and in the jaw. So they just want to notice what's happening without judgment. And then ask these 4 questions. What am I believing right now? How does it make me feel? Is it even true? And who would I be if I could let go of that belief? For an 8, the belief is usually some version of, I have to fight this or I will be steamrolled or taken advantage of. And they want to ask themselves, is this true right now in this moment? And then they want to pivot, choosing not to be silent, but to offer a more calibrated, intentional response. The truth delivered at a volume and intensity that lets the other person actually hear what is being said. That's it, 30 seconds, and it can change things. Now let's look at the 9, the peacemaker. The 9's core wound sounds something like this. My presence creates conflict. It's safer for everyone if I just disappear a little. Somewhere along the way, the 9 learned that having needs or opinions made waves, could cause problems. And so they learned to merge, to blend with others, to just go along. And their strategy in life becomes, I'll keep the peace, I'll be easy, I'll go where the wind blows, I won't rock the boat. For the 9, anger gets pushed all the way down, so far down that they often don't even know it's there until it begins to leak out as resentment, as this quiet stubbornness, as that flat, I'm fine, that everyone else has learned that it is a warning that something is wrong and that they aren't fine. Or sometimes as a sudden volcanic eruption that surprises everyone, including the 9. They are the ones who avoid conflict like the plague. They get sidetracked and tend to procrastinate. They are the ones who will go along with everyone else. Decisions can be really hard for them, and they can often choose that path of least resistance. They like routine and can get thrown off if there isn't one. And they may struggle to get started with activities or tasks. They don't view themselves as important or impressive. And they can tune out of the present moment and get stuck in thinking about the past. They can get quietly stubborn when people put demands on them. And they have a tendency to overlook themselves. They tend to dull their feelings of anger and sadness with numbing behaviors. But 9s bring peace and calm into this world because they are natural mediators. They can see and value different points of view. 9s have the ability to see all sides. They bring a steadiness to a room. They are flexible and inclusive, and they are unselfish and inspire others. And even though they're slow starters, once they get started, they get a lot done. But the cost to a 9 is self-forgetting, the slow erosion of their preferences, the resentment that builds while they appear sweet and easygoing. And their deadly sin is sloth, because they can become so disconnected from their passions in life that they lose sight of who they are as a person. They lose sight of the good side of anger for the sake of peace. So are you a 9? Is someone you love a 9? Peace is important to you, but how are you trying to create it? Are you trying to create it by stepping into your life or by merging with others? What does growth look like for a 9 then? Growth for a 9 is waking up, showing up, and coming back online to their own opinions, their own preferences, their own anger, their own yeses, and their own nos. The invitation here is awareness. What do I actually want? Is a radical, important, holy question for a 9. It's a return to self, and often it's a return to God, because the 9 who's been disappearing has often been disappearing to him too. Showing up to their own life is showing up to the one who made it. So what does transformation look like? Well, it can happen when a 9 can spend time discovering what lights them up, when they find task management system to help them focus on what matters to them, when they can say no, when they really want to say no, when they can pay attention to those numbing strategies like eating and shopping or scrolling, when they can practice sharing their opinions, when they can be honest and open instead of passive aggressive, when they can take a breath and engage in hard conversations, when they can stop merging with others and become their own person, and when they can discover what they want to do and then do it. So for a 9, snap would look like this: stop. Now, this is a tricky one for a 9 because the 9 already is pretty good at pausing and stopping. The 9 stop is different. It's about stopping the drift. It's stopping the slow merge into someone else's opinions and preferences. It's taking 3 breaths to come back to themselves. And then noticing, what is my body actually saying? 9s have to work harder than anyone to feel their own sensations. Numbness is real, and the body is quiet because the 9 has been quieting it. So they want to notice gently, where am I right now? What am I actually feeling underneath the fine? And then they want to ask those 4 questions. What am I believing? How does it make me feel? Is it true? And who would I be if I could let go of that belief? And for the 9, the belief is often, if I say what I really want, it will cause a problem. So we want to ask, is this even true today in this moment with this person? And then pivot. They want to choose a response that's theirs, not the response that keeps the peace, the response that comes from the real person, the real them. Sometimes that response is still peace, but chosen peace is different from passive or disappeared peace. So now let's move on to the 1, the reformer, the perfectionist. The 1's core wounds sound something like this: if I'm not good, I'm not safe. I am not lovable, and I am not enough. The 1 often grew up sensing, and sometimes accurately and sometimes not, that love was conditional on being good, on doing it right, on not messing up. Their strategy in life then becomes, I will get it right, and I will improve, and I will hold the line for myself and for everyone else around me. So for the 1, anger gets internalized. It gets channeled into the inner critic, that voice that runs the narration all day long, evaluating, correcting, never quite satisfied. And so 1s often don't even use the word anger. They'll say that they feel frustrated or irritated or tense, but it's the same fuel, just routed inward. The ones who can't rest because the list isn't done. The one whose faith has quietly turned into a performance review or a checklist where they're the only one getting the bad scores. The ones look competent and put together on the outside while they're exhausted on the inside from trying to be good enough. They tend to focus on imperfections, to micromanage others. They can view life as black or white, and they worry a lot. The deadly sin of a 1 is anger that often shows up as resentment. They chase perfection and they feel resentful toward those who aren't meeting their expectations, which can include themselves. But 1s are amazing. They are committed to service and integrity. They are conscientious and faithful stewards. Details are important to them, which shows in beautiful, careful work. 1s are the people who make the world more honest, more orderly, more whole. They notice what needs improving, and a lot of times what needs improving really does need improving. And they're the conscience in the room. The cost to a 1 is joy, and joy gets postponed because they believe that they will relax when the work is done, but it's never done. They are suspicious of grace. If they give themselves grace, then wouldn't they just get worse? And the body gets treated like a project, something to be managed, something to be fixed. So are you a 1? Is someone you love a 1? Are you seeking peace in perfection? Do you believe that to be perfect is to be good? What if you are wrong about that? What does growth look like for a 1? Growth for a 1 is letting the body have a vote. trusting that rest isn't laziness, that grace is not a loophole or a free pass, that the body is not the enemy of the soul. The invitation here is regulation, the nervous system piece, because the one's body is often locked in at a low grade state of doing it right, tension, that they are so used to it that they don't even feel it anymore. So the work here is allowing. And that word allowing is one I've been sitting with this year, allowing instead of forcing, allowing the breath to slow, allowing the imperfection, allowing God to love them as they are. So transformation for a one happens when they can awaken to self-compassion. When that inner critic starts, then they can talk to it and let it know that they appreciate its help, but they are practicing self-acceptance now. When they can resist the urge to micromanage others and instead notice the things that they are doing. When they can practice relaxing and just having fun. When they're ready to dive into correcting an injustice, they can practice pausing to notice if it is misplaced anger. When they can start a project and practice letting go of the need for it to be perfect. When they can practice enjoying a hobby even when they aren't any good at it. When they can practice forgiving themselves and others for the mistakes that always will happen. And when they can catch themselves comparing themselves against others. And when they can practice accepting criticism from others without being defensive. So what would snap look like for a one? Stop. The inner critic is fast. Snap slows it. 3 breaths before you let the internal voice hand down a verdict on yourself, on your children, on your spouse, on your friends, your neighbors, or your house. And then notice, where is the tension in your body? Ones tend to carry it in the shoulders, the jaw, the gut. You just want to notice it without needing to fix it. And this is a hard part for a one, to notice without fixing. And then asking those 4 questions. What am I believing? How does it make me feel? Is it even true? And who would I be without that belief? For the one, the belief is almost always some version of, I'm not doing enough, or this isn't good enough. And we want to ask, is this even true? Who would I be if I could just let this go? And then we want to pivot and choose grace, not as a performance, but as a practice. The one doesn't need to try harder at grace. They need to just receive it and then move on from there. And so here we are, the body center or the gut triad with its 3 types and the 3 different strategies. The 8 pushes anger out, the 9 pushes it down, and the 1 pushes it in. And all 3 are answering this same question, which is the body's question. How do I stay myself in a world that keeps asking me to be something else? What I love about the Enneagram, and the reason I keep coming back to it in my coaching work, is that it doesn't shame you for your strategy. Your strategy worked. It got you here. It protected something tender in you when you were young and you needed protection. The 8's armor, the 9's invisibility, the 1's perfectionism. There's nothing wrong with you. This was survival. But survival is not the same as living. And in this season of midlife, you are invited to put down the strategy that you don't need anymore and pick up the life that you actually want. That's the work, and that's the work that I do with my clients. No matter what your number is, your body isn't the obstacle to your spiritual life. It's the doorway. The body may be where the spirit speaks to you. That tight jaw is information. That sigh is information. The tear that surprises you while you're sitting in your car is information. God made you a body for a reason. And this year, I keep coming back to that word, allowing. Each of these types has something that they're trying to force. The 8 is forcing toughness. The 9 is forcing peace. And the 1 is forcing perfectionism. The body's invitation, and I think it's the spirit's invitation, is to allow. To let the body speak without weaponizing it, without numbing it, without correcting it. We just need to listen. And so before we close, I want to ask you 3 questions that I invite you to just sit with this week. Number 1, where do you feel anger in your body before you ever name it as anger? What are those sensations that you're feeling? Number 2, which of these 3 sounds most like you? An 8, a 9, or a 1? And which one surprised you? And number 3, what would it look like this week to let your body have a vote? You don't have to answer them today. Again, I just want you to sit with them for now. And next week, we are heading into the heart triad, types 2, 3, and 4, and I cannot wait. If today's episode was about how do I stay myself, next week's is about who am I when no one's watching. So I invite you to come back for that. In the meantime, if you haven't grabbed the 30-day conflict to connection challenge, it's free. The link is in the show notes, and it's a beautiful next step to transformation in your relationships. If this episode resonated with you, I'd ask if you'd share it with a friend. That's how this podcast grows, and I'm so grateful for every share. Thank you for being here, my friend. Take a deep breath and let your body know that you heard it today, and I'll see you next week.